What's up, everybody? How we doing? Good. Let's all go turn to Ruth chapter 1. Ruth chapter 1. Start there this morning. Dive right in. Heck yeah, I love to hear it. Good stuff. The 8th chapter in the Old Testament. Go over there and we'll kind of dive right in. Derek mentioned we're in a new series called Behind the Scenes. Really excited for just this series. We've got some cool stuff coming. It'll be actually kind of a longer series. We're going to be looking at 2 books. We're going to be looking at Ruth and Esther during the series. Just super excited. Super stoked to be sharing with you guys. I think some good things have been happening just as we've been talking about this. What does this mean for us? How do we apply these books to us? All that kind of stuff. And for many of you guys, this might be a first time reading through this book, or if not, it's been maybe a long time for you. So, like last time, if you're there, say A. If you're not there, say nay. All right. Respect. I feel like that kind of works, Figure out where everybody's at. Everybody there, say A. Hey. Anybody not there, say nay. Y'all need some time? We good? We good, bro? We good? All right, let's dive in. Ruth chapter 1. Stay with me. In the days when the judges ruled, there was a famine in the land. So a man from Bethlehem in Judah, together with his wife and 2 sons, went to live for a while in the country of Moab. The man's name was Elimelech, his wife's name was Naomi, and the name of his 2 sons were Mahlon and Chilion. They were Ephrathites from Bethlehem, Judah, and they went to Moab and lived there. Now Elimelech, Naomi's husband, died, and she was left with her 2 sons. They married Moabite women, one named Orpah and the other Ruth. After they had lived there for about 10 years, After they had lived there for about 10 years, both Mahlon and Chilion also died, and Naomi was left without her 2 sons and her husband. When Naomi heard in Moab that the Lord had come to the aid of his people by providing food for them, she and her daughters-in-law prepared to return home from there. With her 2 daughters-in-law, she left the place where they had been living and set out on the road that would take them back to the land of Judah. Then Naomi said to her 2 daughters-in-law, "Go back, each of you, to your mother's land, to your mother's home. May the Lord show you kindness as you have shown kindness to your dead husbands and to me. May the Lord grant that each of you will find rest in the home of another husband." Then she kissed them goodbye, and they wept aloud, and said to her, "We will go back with you to your people." Verse 11, but Naomi said, "Return home, my daughters. Why would you come with me? Am I going to have any more sons who could become your husbands? Return home, my daughters. I'm too old to have another husband, even if I thought there was still hope for me, even if I had another husband and died and then gave birth to sons. Would you wait until they grew up? Would you remain unmarried for them? No, my daughters. It is more bitter for me than for you, because the Lord's hand has turned against me." At this, they wept aloud again. Then Orpah kissed her mother-in-law goodbye, but Ruth clung to her. "Look," said Naomi, "your sister-in-law is going back to her people and to her gods. Go back with her." But Ruth replied, "Don't urge me to leave you or to turn back from you. Where you go, I will go. And where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God, my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. May the Lord deal with me, be it ever so severely, if even death separates you and me." When Naomi realized that Ruth had determined to go with her, she stopped urging her. So the 2 women went on until they came to Bethlehem. When they arrived in Bethlehem, the whole town was stirred because of them. And the woman exclaimed, "Can this possibly be Naomi?" "Don't call me Naomi," she told them. "Call me Mara, because the Almighty has made my life very bitter. I went away full, but the Lord has brought me back empty. Why call me Naomi? The Lord has afflicted me. The Almighty has brought misfortune upon me." So Naomi returned from Moab, accompanied by Ruth the Moabite, her daughter-in-law, arriving in Bethlehem as the barley harvest was beginning. Let's pray. God, thank you for this morning. Thank you for the book of Ruth. Thank you for your word. Thank you that we can come here and learn more about you. God, speak to us this morning. as we kick off this series, I pray over this entire series that we will be challenged, that we will stay focused, and that we can be encouraged in our faith and challenged just to grow closer to you. God, we love you. We pray this all in your name. Amen. So who was here, was it maybe 2 weeks ago when I preached last time on hypocrisy, right? Influence, all kinds of. So a couple of you guys were here, and I told a story. Okay, I told a story about how I threw a pumpkin, for those of you who were there, I threw a pumpkin over the side of the dorm, and it came to its death at the bottom, just as bad timing as the cop pulled up and all that kind of stuff. Very scary situation. But the thing is I got dared to do it. Someone said, you won't do it, and so what did I do? I did it, right? But what I would say is that there's another person in my family who would probably go even further than I would. If you know anything about my brother, I would say that if you dared him to do something a lot crazier than you dared me to do something, he would do it. I would say pretty much anything short of death itself, Cameron would probably do it if there was enough reward in it for him. So if you know, another thing you might know about my brother is that he has a lot of hobbies, a lot of things that he's into, a lot of things he collects, and that's just not my personality, but Cameron's into that kind of stuff. And so he has a knife collection. Okay, so he has a knife collection, and he also a couple of years ago got into airsofting. And so him and his friends would go airsofting all the time, and he got this really nice airsoft gun. Like really, really nice. It was all fancy and all the perks and all the cool things. Okay? Actually, I think I might have brought it, so I thought maybe I could just show you guys. Okay? Now, I'm just gonna point it this direction, but I'm just gonna show you this airsoft gun. Okay? So this is what I'm talking about, all right? And I'm sorry, Cam, I'm doing this disgrace to you.
Yeah, you gotta.
I'm sorry, I gotta pop it up. I gotta do all the. I don't know, whatever. You want to fix it for me? I'm sorry, I don't know. I don't want to hurt this thing, and I feel like I'm gonna break it. So this is the toy we're talking about right now. Okay? So I just want to give you guys a visual as I go into the story that I'm about to tell. Okay? So and some of you guys are familiar with Jeff Snodgrass. Okay? He's a family friend of ours, and he came to visit recently. And Cameron was showing him his knife collection. He said, "Jeff, look at this. I have a pretty cool knife collection." He was really proud. He was like, "This is my knife collection." and Jeff was like, "Bro, that's nothing. You got nothing on me. I, on the other hand, have a pretty cool knife collection." Okay? So Cameron gets his interest piqued. He was like, "That's very interesting. You have a lot of knives. I didn't know this about you. What could I do for one of your knives? How could I expand my knife collection?" This just sounds so weird just talking about that. So he goes on, and if you know my brother, there's a philosophy that he has. He says, doesn't never hurt to ask, right? So he asks Jeff, he says, "What could I do for a knife?" And Jeff, I'm just going to skip to it. It escalated very, very quickly. This gun was involved, okay? And who's been in my house before? Backyard? Y'all can visualize it, some of you guys in your head. If not, be there today. We got a pool party. Gonna be sick, okay? So let's think about this real quick. We're talking about there's the boat cover, the sheds, all that. He's walking across the grass from the concrete to the fence. Okay, and Jeff's over by the pool with this thing, mind you, fully automatic. Cameron is literally taking the walk of shame for his knife, going like this, as Jeff literally unloads on it. Okay, the best part of all, he was in his underwear.
Jeff or Cameron?
Who was in underwear?
Jeff got him.
He said who? Who was in the underwear?
Yeah, Jeff. So Cameron's taking his walk of shame as Jeff just unloads on him. It's like midnight, freezing outside, and Cameron's just getting hit all over the body, and he has to turn around and walk all the way back. That's not the worst part. This fool decides to do it again. he did it twice because he was like, well, I mean, I got one, let's just get another. So basically, this dude walks to the fence and back twice in just his underwear, getting unloaded on. He just got welts like all over his body, right? And the priest to me is like, dude, like how can you trust this dude? You don't know if he has a single knife at all. I mean, he might not, he like literally not have a single knife. He might be like, oh, my butter knife, baby. Like, it's like, okay, like that's a lot of trust you're putting in him to get shot all over the body. So, as some of you guys know, I'm in school in Southern California. That's where Jeff's from. So he actually, he had me bring it up for me when I came back home. And he was like, you know what? I promised him 2 knives, but I think he really deserves something better. I'm going to give him a sword. Okay? And he said, you need to make me one promise. When you give this to Cameron, you need to FaceTime. Because I just want to see how bright his face is when he sees this giant sword. So I actually brought that because I was like, okay, I gotta show this. So I have this in my car, which mind you, driving 6 hours, I was like, I hope nothing happens because I don't think a cop, I don't know. So Cameron gets this very nice sword from the Philippines. It's like engraved. He actually bought it in the Philippines, and so it's a very nice sword that he got. Okay? But as you can see, he did some work for it. Right? He got hit all over the body. It's a very, very, very nice sword. I personally still don't think this proves it. But for some reason, we have this some of you guys know what I'm talking about, like desire to like shoot and like get hit, like people go airsofting, paintball, like you guys have been paintballing before, like for some reason like we like doing that stuff. It doesn't make sense. Like why would you want to get shot and like get hurt? And like it doesn't even make sense to me, right? But we watch shows as well, right? Like we watch like cop shows, we watch like scary movies, we watch like Star Wars is like this big thing, and it's like people like they're fighting each other. It's like good. I know, okay, swords, whatever, but they have like lightsabers. But my point is like we like all this, like this piques our interest, right? And so, have you guys seen Walking Dead? Walking Dead. Some of you guys, zombie show. Like I was like so against it. I was like, I'm never gonna watch that show. Like zombies are lame, like they're not real, all this stuff. And basically, I went on to watch the show, and it's actually pretty good, and I really liked it. But like, why do I was like wondering why do I like this show about zombies? Like what? You know, honestly, if we can be real, okay? Who wishes there was a zombie apocalypse? Like, oh yeah, the hands go up, right? Because I get a witness. All right, so y'all think that like what? Because why? It's like we're thinking like, oh, what would happen? Like, where would I go? Like, I was talking to some kids I was hanging out with some guys last night, and they were like, oh, like we're all gonna come together, and we're all gonna like get together and have this dope fort, and we're just gonna like take down these zombies. You know, it's like we all like dream about this, like, and maybe you guys are like, I never want a zombie apocalypse to happen, and I'm sorry if I'm scaring you. Don't please come back. But like, I think like this for some of us is very appealing. We're like, bro, I want a zombie apocalypse to happen. Right? But think about this for a second. Think about the reality of a zombie apocalypse for a second. Okay? I know, okay, whatever, it won't ever happen. But just play with this idea. Think about the authority would be gone, right? All the government, all of the authority would be gone. People would just be riding solo, riding in groups, fending for themselves. People would fight each other. All of these different things would happen. It'd be very scary, very violent, right? A lot of crazy things would happen because it's just kind of like, oh, all government's gone and now I'm going to do whatever I want, right? Think about that. Think about how scary that would be. Okay? Think about it. All of a sudden, the government's gone, there's no authority, and we're just left on our own. That would be pretty scary. Okay, now, it doesn't say that there's a zombie apocalypse in Ruth, but catch the first phrase of the book. It opens up. In the days when the judges ruled. In the days when the judges ruled. Now, this short little phrase right here might be very easy to skip over. It's just like, it gives the time in which this has happened. Okay? But when you stop and think about this, there's actually a lot going on here. We have to pause and think about this. This is reflecting on the book of Judges. This is reflecting on a very dark part of Israel's history. There was a lot of disobedience. There was idolatry. There was violence. There was a lot of bad things happening. Okay, and although it would look a little bit different than a zombie apocalypse per se, what I'm trying to show you in your mind is that it was a very, very dark time of history for Israel. The time when the judges ruled was a very, very dark time. So when we see the opening in Ruth, when it says, in the days when the judges ruled, we got to understand what this is talking about and the importance of this. In Judges, it reads, it says, people did whatever seemed right in their own eyes. If I think it's right, then I'm going to do it. That's how the thinking was at that point. And this sets the tone, really, for the entire book of Ruth, saying during this time, when the judges ruled, this is the time we're talking about. This is the period of time of Israel that we're talking about in Judah. And see, the cool thing about Ruth, the cool thing about the story, the part that I love, is that although it seemed at times like God was dead during this time, although it seemed like God had completely abandoned the people, there were people that stood up and were faithful to him. There were people that said, I'm not going to be swept away with everybody else. I'm going to be faithful to my Heavenly Father. And here in the book of Ruth, we're going to see some of those people that are faithful to God in the midst of this crazy, crazy season. See, we come upon the second part of verse 1. And if you guys look, it says there was a famine in the land. And see, now this is the problem in the story. We now have the setting, we have the time, we have when it's all happening, and now we have the problem. We say there was a famine in the land. God wasn't providing food for the people. People weren't able to have food. There was a famine in the land. And so as we continue to read the story, everything's kind of in response to this now, right? We're introduced to four characters. We're introduced to a mom and dad, and we're introduced to two sons. There's a family of four, and they say, I'm not having any of this. I want food. I want to fill my tummy. I want to pack up my U-Haul, and they make the trek to Moab. Okay? They load up everything, and if y'all know, like packing and moving sucks. But they were willing to do it because they were like, I want food. Right? So they make the trek. They move from Judah to Bethlehem. They move to Moab, and they're in search of food. And now it kind of fast forward, and it says that they're there for about 10 years. Both of the sons get married. They get married to Ruth and Orpah. So now it's a bigger family, and they're living there. They live there for about 10 years. And then it goes on to say, if you were following along, that all of the men die in the family. The husband dies, and the two sons die. And so now we're left with three women. We're left with Naomi, Ruth, and Orpah. And that's kind of where this story takes us, that now all the men are gone, and we're left with these three women. And now Naomi realizes, she hears through the grapevine that food is back in Judah. Right? Food is back, and so now I can go back. I can go back to my homeland. Because some of you got to know about Moab. Moab is Israel's ancient enemy. Okay, Moab is the foreign land. They worship different gods. They worship different things. They live a very different life, and they're a completely different culture. So when they're there, it's like they are foreigners in this land. She hears that there's food, and of course she thinks, I want to go back to my homeland. I want to go back to motherland because that's where I'm from. I love that place, and I love God and worshiping Him, and I want to be able to live that out. So she packs up all her things. Her, Orpah, and Ruth, they pack up their things, and it's now just three of them, and they're all chilling in the U-Haul, making this trek, and they we think, she said, why are you guys coming? We came to your land, Moab, and you married our sons, and now I want you to stay in your own homeland. Stay here and then go back to your father's house, and you can get married again. You can have kids, you can have a family, you can have all these things. Why go back with me all the way back to Judah? And so they're having this conversation, and it's interesting that the Bible actually talks about they actually already left. So they were literally on their way to Judah. They had packed up all the things. They were on their way, and they start to have this conversation. And they're like, no, we're going to come with you. Like it's loyalty to our husband's family, right? Like we're family to you. We're loyal to you. We're going to be loyal. And so they're having this conversation, and Naomi's just really urging them. She's like, no, like stay in your land. And it says that Orpah decided to go back. They were weeping. There was a lot of tears. Like at this point, they were family. They've been living together for a long time. And think about this: if there's a marriage into a family, and then you're living together for a long time, and say goodbye, it's very, very sad, right? Like think about, like it's a very sad situation. So Orpah leaves, right? And it says very clearly, it says your sister-in-law is going back to her people and to her gods. And now they're talking, and it's Ruth and Naomi. And Naomi's like, Ruth, like you need to go back as well. Go back to your father's house. Like, the only thing that, I mean, what am I going to have, like, get married again and have kids, and then, age gap there is just ridiculous. And so they're like having this conversation. It's like, no, go, stay here. Don't come back. See, Ruth here makes a pivotal decision. She makes a decision that is a complete turning point in the story. She makes a decision that, like, you don't see coming. Like, why would she go with her? Okay? Can we all pick it up again in Ruth 1? Verse 15, it says, look, said Naomi. Naomi's talking to Ruth. She said, look, your sister-in-law, she's talking about Orpah, is going back to her people and to her God. Go back with her. Catch this, verse 16. But Ruth replied, don't urge me to leave you or to turn back from you. Where you go, I will go, and where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God, my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. Right here, guys, we see an amazing statement of faith. We see a statement of loyalty to Naomi by Ruth. Ruth says, I am loyal to you. Where you go, I will go. Where you live, I will live. Your people will be my people, and your God, my God. See here, guys, Naomi and her family came in. They believed in God, and they came into this foreign land called Moab, right? And they were different than everybody else. They said in Moab that they worshiped different gods, right? And so Naomi's family looked very different. They worshipped our God, right? And so Orpah's decision, as it says here, to leave Naomi and go back to Moab was her decision to go back to her people and to worship her gods. That was her decision to say, no, God, I'm going back to my people. I'm going back to my gods. I'm going to continue worshiping how I used to worship. So Ruth says here, no. Where you go, I will go. Your God will be my God. And if we look at this story, guys, like this is a major decision that will completely affect the rest of our life. Right? We all make decisions, right? Like I know, like some of y'all are like I can't wait to start shaving because I want a beard to come in, and I'm gonna be looking like Caleb, like I'm gonna be looking real clean, right? And then there's others of you like you just can't wait, and then you start shaving, and it's coming in, you're like, dang it, I hate shaving. I don't want to ever shave again in my life. And then some of y'all are like in 12th grade, and you're like, oh, is it ever gonna come in? And like, but then it's like you think it's like, oh, this is a major decision. Like I can't wait to shave. Maybe it's like, oh, I want to ask this girl on a date, and then it's like, oh, like, she said yes, and then you all go, and then, like, your parents got to drive you to, like, the restaurant or whatever, and then the movies, like Ben there, right? And then it's like, so it's like this major decision, like, oh, this is such a big thing. Maybe some of you, it's like, oh, like, where am I going to go to college? Like, or, like, now you're on your way, it's like, what am I going to take to college? Like, all these decisions, like, they affect your life, right? Like, there's all these different things that we do, all these decisions. But on a more serious note, a little higher scale, we see Ruth's decision to stay with Naomi. It doesn't make sense. Like, why would she leave her land, leave her people, leave her culture, everything that she's ever known, to go back to Judah? Because Naomi had influenced her. She had seen God in Naomi and the family, and decided this is going to be my God. This was a big decision in her life. See, it wasn't just overnight that this happened. right? It says here clearly, it says 10 years have passed. So it's not this long, like, I'm sorry. It's not this like super short thing. They're there for 10 years. So 10 years of talking and Naomi and her family being influencers on her. Right? We're talking about, like we just came from this series called Influential, being influencers. Right? They had influenced her and they had shown who God is in this distant land. Ruth makes a decision to follow God here. And her life completely flips around. Her life completely changes. And as we go into the rest of Ruth the following weeks, and we see how God blesses her family, and I'm excited, you guys got to come back because we got to see the rest of this story of Ruth. God blesses her and gives her all these things, and it's just a very, very powerful story. But if we can sit for a moment this morning and just think about this decision that Ruth made to follow God and to follow Naomi back to her land, this was a very, very big moment. See, as we think about what salvation means for us, okay, think about this for a second. Salvation is a decision to follow Christ, saying that, like, my life is yours, God, right? It's closing an old chapter of your life, and it's starting a brand new one. See, Ruth here closes a chapter of her life. She closes everything that she has done in Moab, and she says, now I'm going to live with Naomi in Judah. There's a very clear moment, very, very clear, verse 16, when she says, all right, now I'm going this direction. Was there a time for you that this happened? Was there a time for you when you gave your life to the Lord, when you committed to living for Him? So, like most of you can think of, like, okay, this is maybe the time, this is the day, like, this is when it happened for me. Okay? But I asked the question this morning, did your life change like Ruth's? Now, I'm not talking about a physical change, like moving to, across the world. Like, that's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about obedience, of where God calls us to live a certain way. So did you make this decision to follow Christ and then just keep walking in the same direction? Or did you close that portion of your life and say, I'm moving on, I'm going to be obedient to God, and I'm going to start walking with the Lord? Was there a time when you closed that chapter and when you opened the new chapter? And I understand, guys, it continues to haunt you. Right? Like, our sinful nature, we're never going to lose that. We're going to continue to live in sin, but our whole life, as we talk about this idea of renovate, right? Like, our whole entire life is in renovation as we go about, and God just continues to change us. And we continue to go closer to Him and to continue to become more and more holy. And as Jared talked about, this idea of perfection, we'll never achieve perfection, but we will continue to become closer and closer to perfection as we grow closer to Him. So I asked you guys this morning, was there a time in your life when you gave your life to the Lord? For many of you guys, that is a yes. Like there is a time. Okay? And was there the closing of the old chapter and the opening of the new chapter for you? See, this morning, I want to encourage you to think about your life very closely, and I want you to think about, maybe there's things in your life going on right now that are still haunting you from that last chapter. As you look through your life and your past and the way you're living now, post-Christ, like now that you're living with Christ, maybe it doesn't look very different than BC. Maybe it doesn't look very different than before Christ. I want you to think about this morning, like, what do you maybe need to change? And maybe this is just me. I might be the only one in this entire room of people, but I feel like I still have things from my past that I continue to haunt me. They continue from my BC, like from my before Christ era, from my sinful nature, it continues to haunt me. And I want to make a decision to let those things go. Say, God, I am following you and I'm committing my life to you. Am I the only one in the room? Am I the only person that's haunted by my past, haunted by my sinful nature? And maybe some of you guys say, I feel good, like I'm growing closer to God, but I want to do one more thing. One more thing. There's also some creeping that happens in our lives. There's things that happen that we let things like kind of creep into our lives. Like one Sunday you're like super joyful. The next Sunday you're like, and then the next Sunday you're like a grouch. Like, what just happened to you? Right? Like there's things like, it's kind of a creep, like there's seasons of your life. Okay, so two things. One, maybe there's things that are just continually haunting you. Like you look at your entire life and you're like, man, I can't let it go. Maybe that's not you. Maybe it's like you're in a season right now that there's creeping going on. That things are coming in your life and you're like, I need to let these things go. Like I gotta push the devil away. Say, no, devil, I'm not giving in to this. I'm not giving into this. I want you guys to think about this morning. Okay, as we read this book of Ruth, and we continue with Ruth's decision to follow God and how she completely changed her life around. She said, goodbye Moab, and I'm going to Judah. It's a complete closing of a chapter and opening of a new one. What I want to ask you guys this morning is there something that you need to close from your last chapter and open to your new chapter? Are you stuck in sin? Are you stuck going back and back and back? Does it just keep happening? You need to say, God, I give you my all. I surrender this area of my life to you, and I'm going to start moving in the other direction. Or maybe some of you, it's kind of a new thing. You've been Christian a long time. You grew up in the church. And now something's creeping on you. Like maybe it's a new thing. And you need to say, God, I surrender this to you. I'm not giving in to the devil and his ways, and I'm going to let it behind me, and I'm going to go keep moving in the right direction. Am I the only one, guys? I encourage you guys to think about that. Think about the story of Ruth, and think about her bravery and her courage to follow Naomi back to God's chosen land. And I encourage you guys to take that journey as well. Commit to living your lives for him. Commit to being obedient to him and not letting that stuff continue to haunt your life. Let's pray, guys. God, I lift this youth group up to you. I believe right now that there's some individuals sitting here right now that have things in their life that they need to let go. It's been a struggle for them. It's been something that's been haunting them. Maybe it's a new thing. It's creeping up into their life. God, I pray for this youth group, for these students, that you will work miracles in their life. That they will bring that stuff to you and that they will surrender that stuff to you so that you can do a good thing in them. That you can change their lives. That you can continue to renovate their lives. God, we love you so much and we just want to grow closer to you so bad. But there's some things that maybe are holding us back. So like Ruth, God, give us the courage to say yes, to commit to you, to following you, to closing that chapter of our life and opening a new one. Thank you for an opportunity to worship you. God, we love you so much. Amen. Amen.